The first speaker that we have today is Guillaume Chau. Guillaume is a member of the Vue CLI team. He works on the Vue core team, he works on Vue CLI, and he works on dev tools, and he likes cat memes and cat pictures. And he's going to be talking about creating Vue CLI plugins. And I'm very excited to welcome him to the stage. Guillaume.
Morning, everyone. I hope you slept well last night, because we got a full day of a lot of contents today. So I hope you're waking up, because we're starting with Vue CLI plugins, and it's maybe a little bit intimidating for some people, but don't worry, you'll be fine. Let's start with a quick reminder of what Vue CLI 3 is. So Vue CLI 3 is like a big project from the core team from last year. So we worked like almost 6 months on it before releasing the first stable version. And it's a completely new tool compared to Vue CLI 2. So you can install it now by first removing Vue CLI 2 if you still have it, and then installing the new package, which is @vue/CLI. And how you use it is you use the Vue create command to create a new Vue CLI 3 project. You give it a name. You go to this new project, and you can use Webpack to save your project in development mode, and you can obviously build it in production mode as well. So it has a lot of built-in features, like all of those. So all of this is built in, and it's ready for you, ready to use. And the best thing about it is that you don't need to configure anything. And the big difference between Vue CLI 3 and Vue CLI 2 is that we no longer have templates; we have plugins instead. And this is a very powerful new system that allows you to really choose what you need for your project when you create your new app. So you can precisely select and configure the features you need, like TypeScript or ESLint or testing utils. And if you forgot something, or you find a new plugin which is interesting and for your project, you can add it later. So it's very powerful. So let's say you want to add Cypress to do end-to-end testing after creating your project. It's as simple as a single Vue add Cypress command. And another good thing about plugins is that you can upgrade them after installing them in your project. So if, for example, Cypress release a new version, and there is a slight configuration changes, we can handle it for you, and you just have to upgrade the plugin. So that's amazing, perfect. So I'm very happy to see the community picking up on Vue CLI 3, and we all already almost have 400 plugins available. So that's awesome. You can create your own, so that's the topic of the talk today. So let's go and create our first plugin. So the main components of Vue CLI 3 that will load and use our plugin are first the CLI itself. So when you create a new project or add new plugins to an existing project, that's when the CLI itself will load plugins and execute them. And also another very important component of the Vue CLI project is the service which lies in the project development dependencies. So it's called Vue CLI service. And this one is very important because it's the package taking care of Webpack and all the runtime aspect of Vue CLI. So, for example, when you run Webpack in development mode, a plugin can tap into the Webpack configuration and add new loaders for you or change existing loader options. And they can even register new commands like test end-to-end, for example. The first thing to notice when creating a new Vue CLI plugin is that there is a quite strict naming convention for Vue CLI plugins. This is because it's the simplest way for Vue CLI to recognize Vue CLI plugins. And so that it knows it's a plugin and it can expect some files in it and execute them. So that's why we have a few different ways to name plugins. The first one is for official plugins only. So it starts with the Vue scope on NPM, and then CLI plugin and the name of the plugin. And if you are creating your own plugin, you have two options. You can either use a plain simple name, which starts with Vue CLI plugin, and then what you want. And you can also use NPM scopes, which start with the @ and the name of the scope and a slash, like we do with Vue CLI, and then Vue CLI and the name of the plugin. So if you don't follow those conventions, you have trouble while loading the plugins, and it may not load at all. So a plugin is basically a JavaScript package. So it has every JavaScript project a package.json file with the name, the version, and the dependencies, and all that usual stuff. It also must include an indexed file, which is the service entry. So basically, when Vue CLI service will load this plugin, it will look for this file and execute it. So if it doesn't have this file, it will error. So you must include this one. And then you have a few optional files like the generator file, which is able to, for example, create new files. We go back to this a bit later. There's also a possibility to ask questions to the user with this prompts file, and also integrate with the graphical user interface of Vue CLI with this UI file. Please note that the generator prompts on UI files can also be directories with an index file inside. So, for example, you can put everything related to the generator inside the generator folder, and then have an index.js file in this generator folder. It will also work. So let's start with the generator. So that's the thing which is executed when you create or add a plugin, create a project, or add a plugin to an existing project. So it can create new files, modify existing files in the project. So for example, adding imports or view options to your app. It can install new dependencies automatically and modify configurations like ESLint or JSConfig. So that's quite powerful because it can eliminate all the manual boilerplates users have to write, for example, when using JS or other tools. So there's two cases when generators are called. The first one is when you create an app. So using Vue create command, you can either select an existing preset. So a preset is a full configuration. So you can just press enter and it creates a project, or you can manually select the features you want, like Babel, TypeScript, ESLint, and testing utilities. But in the end, both of them will result in a preset object being created and used by Vue Create. And this preset will contain a list of plugins. So for example, if you select Babel and ESLint, you get 2 plugins one for Bubble and one for ESLint. And each of them can have a generator. So in fact, if you select Bubble and ESLint, both of them have generators. And Vue CLI will execute them automatically, so they can like create the Bubble config file or the ESLint config file in your project. The other use case for generator is adding a plugin to an existing project. So it's a bit different because you first install the CLI first asks you to install the package with yarn add or npm install, and then it will what we call invoke it, which means executing the generator, but it's a bit long, so we like try to name it. So we came up with invoke, and invoke will like read the generator if it's present. So keep in mind it's optional, and then the generator can do itself. So one of the cool features of generators is that you can use EJS templates. Whoever used EJS templates? So it's kind of like PHP, but in JavaScript. So you can have special tags in your source files, and you can render templates with variables and have conditions, for loops, and printing dynamic variables. So it's very useful for generators because you can like customize the user experience and, for example, print different values in a specific file or skip an entire part of the file. So it's very useful. So let's go with our first demo. I hope I know what I'm doing. So here is a very like simple and empty, almost empty Vue CLI plugin. So it first has a package.json file. So naming is important. So follow the Vue CLI plugin naming conventions. And well, it doesn't like need to have mains options because, as I said earlier, the Vue CLI service will look for the index.js file. So here it is. That's the minimum code required is module export and a function. And all those files will be very similar to this, so they all export a function. So let's go to the generator. So as you can see, I can use, as I said, a generator. Is it big enough? A generator folder here and an index file here. So it's the same as having just a generator.js file. So in this file, we have our exported function, and it gets two parameters. Or the first one is the API we provide you, and the second one is the option. So we get back to this one a little bit later. The JS doc commands I've written here is to be able to use autocompletion. So here, for example, I have like autocompletion of the API methods. And the first very useful one is extend package. And this one is very powerful because you can either install dependencies or add new scripts or add new configurations. So it's very useful. And I'm going to start by installing a new dependency. Dependencies. Let's say this one. And also change the Vue CLI configuration. So we can say I want to change the Vue config, and you have a special Vue configuration option, which is plugin options, which is freeform, so that plugins can put anything they want here. And it's good practice to scope your options into an object. So let's say a demo plugin. And then we can like put anything we want. So I have my like very simple generator installing dit merge in the dependencies and also modifying the configuration. So I'm gonna open Vue CLI graphical user interface. And I have a very simple empty Vue CLI 3 project here. And I'm gonna zoom a little bit and go to plugins. So I've added the bubble and Yesin plugins. And I'm gonna add my new local plugin I'm developing with you. It's gonna like copy the files to the project, basically. And then I can invoke it. Ethernet cable. It's very good. And here it is. Our plugin is installed. So we got a Git-like view of what just happened to our project. So first we can see that our Vue CLI plugin got installed here, but we also installed a new dependency, and we modified the Vue configuration file here. So it's like JavaScript, so it's very powerful. And we can directly commit our changes in using Git or skip. And now we have our plugin added to the project. So that's quite nice. I also have a template here, so that's a folder with files in it. So here's like a JavaScript file. As I said, we can use EJS templating. So, for example, name in here, and it will like if we pass a variable to it, it will like print the name. And to render this template to our project is very simple. We just use render and then template. I'm gonna revet the changes and install it again. No, it's gone. Okay, so now we have a new file in our project, which is a JavaScript file. So if we look in our Vue CLI 3 project, in the SSC folder, we can see that the janitor created this new file from the template. So that's nice. Let's go back to slides. Okay. So the second part of the janitor of the plugin is prompts. So it's a system that allows you to ask questions to the user, so you can like tailor the experience for their needs. So it's using it's like basically asking questions and personalizing the experience. And it's when you add a new plugin to the project, it's gonna like before install it and then evoke it, and then if it has prompts, it will ask the questions contained in the prompts file, and then will execute the generator. So for the questions, we are using this library called inquire.js. So it's a very nice library with a lot of like predefined question types. So let's go back to the demo and go to the prompts file. So here we go, and again, thanks to JS comments, I have all the types completions, so I can name a question. Let's say your name. Well, not that. Name is better. Maybe username, so it's less confusing. And then you can give it a type. So let's say input. So it's gonna be a text input. Let's give it a label, so it's message. Don't know why. So enter your name, for example. And then we can also validate answer. Okay. So now that we have declared a prompt, so a question, we can use it in our generator. So for example, we can say username in the configuration file will be able to will be the value that the user entered. So username. And we can also here, well, data when we are rendering the template, so we can use it in EJS, sorry. So we can use username, for example. He's not happy. Oh yeah, options. And username. Okay, and in our template, we can use it like this. Username. And we can install it again to see if it works. Okay. Everything's fine. Okay. Live coding is stressful. Please work. Okay, so we got our prompt here. So the user can enter his name. Let's say cat. And we can then invoke the plugin, and hopefully our configuration will have the name and the hello.js file as well. Okay. So we can see that thanks to EJS, our JavaScript file was customized as well, and the Vue configuration too. So that's nice. So the next important thing is configuring the runtime experience when you are building on serving the app while you're developing the app, and this is thanks to Vue CLI service. So the service file of the plugin, so that's the index.js file in the plugin, can modify the Webpack configuration on the fly. So it can add loaders and add plugins for the user. And it can also register commands. So for example, the Cypress plugin built into Vue CLI 3 can declare the test end-to-end command. So you can just run it and then it will open Cypress. So what happens when you run a Vue CLI service command? So you may already have seen the serve command and the build command. So that's Vue CLI service space serve or build. And those are built-in commands in Vue CLI service. So they are allowing you to run the app with Webpack Development Server or building the app in production with Webpack. So what's gonna happen is that the CLI service will be executed because that's a binary from the CLI service. And then the service will look for all the plugins installed in the project. So using the naming convention. So if you named your plugin wrong, it will not find it. So and then it will load the index.js files in every plugin it found, and then you can customize things. And then finally, we'll execute the command requested by the user. So for configuring Webpack, the recommended way is using Webpack chain. That's a very nice package that allows you to very precisely modify the configuration of Webpack. Sorry, so you can, for example, add loader after another loader, or you can even tap into an existing loader and modify the options, or even remove loaders. And same with plugins and other configuration options from Webpack. When I will share the slides, this is a link to Webpack chain. So we can check out the documentation. And we're gonna go ahead and write our first service. So if we go back to the plugin, we have this index.js file. And it's, again, an exporting a function, and we have access to the service API, so that's a bit different from the Ginger API, because it's not like meant to generate or modify files. So let's say we want to register a new command. So we're gonna use register command here, and we're gonna give it a name, for example, Vue, I don't know. And it can have like arguments. So let's say I am an argument. And then you can execute a function. So you get the arguments, and you can say Vue was called. And if like arguments bar, we can say bar is there. Okay. The nice thing about generators is that you can also register scripts for your user automatically, so they can like directly use this new command. So let's modify our generator and add scripts. And let's say we want to call it tests, and we're gonna use the real npm script command with it. So that's Vue CLI service Vue. Okay, so let's reinstall our plugin. So I'm gonna reset the project, and now it's gone. Hopefully, yeah. Installing, prompting. So as you can see, you can't continue because we added validate to the prompt, so I have to enter name. Okay. Okay, so now we can see that in the project, user project, we added the test script in the package.json file, and we can like run this new script. Okay, so it's working. Nice. If we go with the terminal to test our argument, we're gonna yarn run test. Well, yeah, our argument is working. So nothing very complicated here. Okay, so that's our service. And finally, we can like integrate with the graphical user interface, so we can add new things like additional descriptions and informations about our test task, and also other things like widgets to the home screen or configuration screens. So let's go ahead and like I said, well, a little bit more explanation before. So when you are using the graphical user interface, it's gonna load, well, like the service, it's gonna look for the plugins in the project. So again, naming is important. And then you're gonna look for the UI file this time. If it's present, it's optional. And you can even like load custom components into the graphical user interface. So let's go ahead and like do some UI stuff. So I'm going back to the plugin, close this. And here we have our UI file, and again, it's exporting a function, and it has access to another API, which is tailored, tailored to the graphical user aspect of things. And we can, for example, describe our task. So it should match using regex. It should match service, CLI service. Vue. And we can add new things like description. I am doing temp things. Not try me. Or even a link, like HTTP, vuejs. And if we go back to the graphical user interface of Vue CLI, we can hit this refresh button. No, we first need to update the plugin in our project, so we can go use this little button here. And then the tasks will have a description and a link. Yeah. And we can even go a bit further and add prompts to our tasks. So let's say we have, we want to toggle the bar argument. So I'm gonna add this new question, which is type confirm. So it's gonna be a switch, a checkbox. And the message will be enable bar. Okay. And then we can hook into the task and do some things before it runs. So it's like on before run. And the first argument is answers. And the other one is arguments. And so we can add conditions. Why isn't it? Oh yeah, sorry. So if the user checked bar, we're gonna add a new argument. So let's say bar. Okay, I hope I didn't mess things up. No, everything looks, oh no. I forgot, it's an object, sorry. Okay, so that's an API object. So let's update our plugin. Let's go back to our task. And now we can click on parameters and have this nice little model. And click on enable bar to check it, save. And then we run the task, and the bar is there. Thank you. Everything works? Wonderful. So that's our little overview of creating a new Vue CLI plugin. So there are lots of more stuff you can do. Our APIs are quite extensive. So I encourage you to go to this website, which is the official documentation for Vue CLI. Thanks to Natalia, we have now reworked plugin development guide. So it's like this. And it's walking you through the process of creating a new Vue CLI plugin. So you have quite some read. So thanks again, Natalia, for this amazing pull request. And you can find all the demo we just did on GitHub here. And that's it for the talk. You can support my open source work on Patreon. And I have already a lot of amazing patrons and two awesome sponsors. So Vue School, which is an amazing learning resource on Vue, and Vuetify, which is the material component library. So big shout out to them. And that's it. Thank you. You can find me on github.com Acrium, on Twitter Acrium.